Mr. President, I support the Buffett Rule because I do believe in fundamental fairness, that if you live in the United States of America, that you benefit from the United States of America, both its national security and its public institutions and the public progress because of that, like public education, land-grant colleges, that you need to pay your fair share. This is what America's all about, fairness, and that we're all in it together. Now let's talk. I've heard all afternoon about, oh, this hardworking entrepreneur and, oh, this hardworking small business. Mr. President, nobody gets to be that hardworking entrepreneur without the United States of America. They've gone to public schools. They've enjoyed public transportation. I could go through a variety of public institutions, safety in our dam, now cybersecurity, wars that are fought by our military for which they won't go or will never go. So, Mr. President, we need to have a way of paying our bills. And when we hear the great President John F. Kennedy quoted saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country," it's called pay your share. Now, let's talk about what the Buffett Rule actually is and what the gentleman from Rhode Island is advocating, and I salute him for offering it. This would ensure that high-earning Americans who make more than $1 million a year pay at least 30% income tax on their effective rate, on their second million. Let me repeat what this is. Your first million, you keep at the same tax rate that it is right this afternoon. What we're talking about is changing the tax rate not on your first million, but on your second million. Now, I don't think that stifles entrepreneurship. I don't think it breaks the neck of small business. I know so many small businesses, they'd like to make that $1 million and then pay that. What the small business needs is not more tax breaks. They need more customers, which is about more jobs. So, Mr. President, I think this bill really talks about this fairness. It would phase in additional tax liability for taxpayers earning between $1 million and $2 billion to avoid a tax cliff. And they're saying, oh, well, let us keep our money so we can give it to charity. This preserves the incentive for charitable giving. And quite frankly, from what we're told, the highest earning 400 Americans make about $270 million each. They're the ones that paid an effective tax rate of 18%. Now just think, you make $270 million. That's not exactly the entrepreneur in a garage. That's not exactly that small business person, a florist, or like my grandmother running that Polish bakery, or like my father with his little grocery store. $270 million each. They pay 18%. So here it is, April 16th, they paid 18%. And that, by the way, is the rules. All we're saying is you can pay that 18% on your first million, but on that second million, you got to get into the game and start to pay 30%. I think that this is a great idea, and I want my colleagues to be able to, when we vote for cloture, to be able to do this. The Buffett Rule supports fairness in the tax code, so executives don't pay a lower rate than the people who work in the mailroom or in the FedEx trucks delivering their products. It does support prosperity and entrepreneurship. As I said, it doesn't kick in till your second million, and then it's phased in slowly. Now, a lot is saying we don't want these handouts from Maryland, from the federal government. It wrecks our entrepreneurship, our get up and go. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Because if that were true, then why is it with these handouts? Who gets the biggest handouts in our country but those who get tax earmarks? You know, we eliminated them in the Appropriations Committee, but we're yet to eliminate the tax earmarks in the tax code. Look how hard it was to get rid of the ethanol subsidy. Oh my God, well, we want to get rid of the oil and gas subsidy. You would think that we were Darth Vader on the Senate floor. So every time we want to take away a lavish tax break that only helps a few get more, we're stymied or stifled. Because actually, if they employed as many people in their businesses as they employ lobbyists in Washington, we would be able to lower the unemployment rate. So the other party is willing to bring us off into the brink of what our kind of default. Remember when we were dealing with debt ceiling rather than tax billionaires? So we continue now to have that same fight. Mr. President, this legislation that we would pass is a modest down payment when reforming the tax code. We do have to make it fairer, but this is a firm way to be able to do it. Sure, we've got to look at the corporate tax code. We've got to look at how to bring expatriate money overseas and bring it back home. Yes, we have to look at rates. Yes, by the way, we have to reward entrepreneurship and acknowledge the special challenges of being a small and medium-sized business. But that's long range. And under the arcane rules of our Senate, we're now so stymied in bringing up that legislation, we could at least take one giant step forward to make our tax code fair by passing the legislation called the Buffett Rule, named after Warren Buffett, one of our great American people, a guy who really gives capitalism a real meaning in our country. But he says, let me pay, and people like me, pay the same rate of taxes as my administrative assistant in the front office. I think Buffett had a good idea. Let's codify it. Let's pass it in the Senate today. Mr. President, I yield the floor.